This episode is brought to you by Adorama Picks.
Hello everyone and welcome back to another Photo Mishmash. I'm Christina.
And I'm Toby.
And this is episode 76. Hello everyone.
Welcome back to another fun episode. This is that weekly photography show where we sit here and we chat about all things photography that happened in the past week, or in this case, because we were away, the past 2 weeks.
That's right. Every show we bring you the week's photography news, we bring you Instagram challenge with prices sometimes, bring you informative discussions, and we answer your photography questions live. So if you are watching this live right now, post your questions in the chat throughout the show. We will be collecting them, and then at the very end of the show, we will answer them. And if you are a Patreon supporter, you get to watch the after show.
Or if you're watching live.
Or if you're watching live as well.
This week we're going to be asking why 6 different photographers took a portrait of the same man. We're wondering if guests with cameras should not be allowed at weddings. Did I say that right? I don't think so. You get what I'm saying though. We've partnered up with Adorama Picks to help you calibrate your monitor the easy way. Sony's got a top secret, revolutionary new camera. We'll mull that over a little bit. And we'll talk about my failure and strong dislike of Best Buy.
All right, so let's get started.
Oh, I thought then you cut to something else.
No.
Oh, dang it.
So first we are going to talk about, in case you missed it, so for the past 2 weeks, so last week we didn't have a show, so we were traveling, so there wasn't a ton of content, but this past week we released a few videos.
Yes.
Right?
Yes, we did.
Yeah.
A couple different videos. That's how I was trying to show everybody Liam's better side. We've got a couple good flash videos out for you all that we're really excited to get back to some of this teaching that it's been a little while since we've done. Those are getting tons of thumbs up. We appreciate it. If you haven't watched them, take a moment to watch them. They'll be linked in the show notes. Along with all the other stuff we'll talk, there'll be a link right down below soon. If you're not watching this live, it definitely will be there. And give them a thumbs up if you haven't watched them, and share with some other people. Many of you have other photography friends that are getting into it or learning, and we think these videos we've just made are a great resource, and you should share them.
Yep. Just as a reminder, we have a pretty awesome giveaway going on right now. Log on or go to photoreg.tv/giveaway to enter. You could win a photography safari to Moab, Utah, as well as a really awesome think tank camera bag, and airfare in the United States, lodging, and instruction from some really talented photographers in the industry. Do you want to say anything else?
No, I think it's going to be a fantastic opportunity. Most of you watching have probably already heard of this. But, you know, watch that video, watch the giveaway video, because you get some glimpses of where they shot last time they went. We'll be back in those locations. It's also great because when I'm doing the voiceover of talking about animals in Montana coming, and I say, there'll be no barriers between you and the animals, I've got this clip where the bear, Adam, walks just right in front of the people in your cameras. And you want a wide angle. Bring a wide angle, not only for the landscapes, but for these animals. It's an amazing experience, the time we had in Montana. Awesome. Take a moment to craft a custom message out to your friends and family. Say, hey, I really want to win this. Go sign up and earn me some bonus entries, because you earn, I think, 3 bonus entries for every friend you sell out. That's what it is.
That's one way of putting it.
Yes.
Yep, and the giveaway ends December 9th. So you have like 3-ish weeks, just over 3 weeks.
27 days I saw on the countdown today.
27 days.
27 days.
So go on and go enter
right?
that.
27 days. Seems longer than it should.
Seems to be.
Whatever.
That's what you said.
Okay. Let's stick with what I said, even if it's wrong.
All right. So now we have got gear on the table.
We do have gear on the table, and really brief, a couple different pieces. One, second impressions of the Sony a7S II. Its low light capabilities are They can't be stated. It's amazing. I took this out along with the A7R for some star photos that you can see on my Instagram picture this past week. And it's just so easy to get focus on the stars. Focus peaking. You just see them. 16,000, 20,000 ISO. It's clear. It's usable. It's amazing. It's great.
Preach it.
It's really nice. Also, just mentioned, you know, I was a little grumpy last week about the 35 not having a manual focus to autofocus switch. I said, I like that. People pointed out you can set up the custom function back here to make that change. That's true, and I do want to make sure people know. The one time I've tried that with the A7R, I haven't tried it with the A7S, I ran into this bug where it would not switch back all of the time. And so, just caution you, but also remember I still am living in that old person paradigm of this is the way things should be, and Sony's pushing that boundary a lot, and people are reminding me that there's sometimes better ways to do things. This came in last week. This is the Venus Optics 2:1 macro, 2x macro. So most macros, most real macros are 1:1. You know, you can get very, very close. This can get twice as close. It's full manual operation, no communication to the lens about aperture. But I have to say, my early testing with it, it's very sharp. For the money, I think it's like 3-something, high 300s. I'm impressed. Comes in Canon and Nikon mount. I don't think it comes in any other mounts, but we'll see.
I just want to take a second to point out, oh, he's not doing it anymore, Liam's weirdest sleeping position. He was just like...
It's downward facing cat. He's doing yoga. This came in for testing last week, and I Instagrammed out a really silly picture of this connected to the Metabones adapter, connected to the 7200. This being the Olympus Air. This is one of those little camera modules that you just kind of pop in with your phone. So your phone just sits there. The phone becomes the interface for it. We're trying to figure out if this is gimmick or useful.
I kind of like it. I mean, I think I would really like to try the DxO1. I don't feel like I spent enough time playing with it at Photo Plus. And this is nice. It's nice to just be able to have something like a slightly better quality than your camera phone, and to be able to take, you know, a really nice quality image so you can share instantly. I do really like it. My only complaint is that because the sensor is so small, there aren't really that many wide lenses, so you have to be pretty far away from your subject to be able to get a usable photo. Otherwise, there's problems focusing, and you know, it's too narrow of a field of view. But I like it.
Well, I mean, you're knocking the thing for there's plenty of wide-angle lenses for Olympus. It uses the micro four thirds mount, the standard, which means you've got lenses from Olympus, Panasonic, Sigma makes some. You have a really nice lens selection and range. Whoa, both cats on the table. Is this a first? I feel so lucky, but of course, Bean blocks so much. Okay.
Come here, Bean.
So, you know, I think it's really intriguing. You know, certainly much better quality than your phone, but is that extra bulk worth it? Sony makes one as well with an APS-C size sensor, which I think is interesting. We'll be talking more about this. I don't know if it's going to get a full review. We would like to compare it to the DX1. If you were paying careful attention to me and not the cat, when Christina mentioned that, I made a face because the DX1, iPhone only, and I just don't like their attitude. So
you can't just like knock a product because it excludes Android. We've already had this discussion about why apps come much later to Android than they do to Apple. So I don't think they maybe should probably say that they are planning to bring it. So maybe they are being a little too restrictive, but it seems like a legit product.
Gathering dust in no time. And this also, I'm worried, will be gathering dust in no time. If this is reviewed, we give it back. But if we had it, I just don't see us really using it enough to be like, this is awesome. But
I think if we were able to keep it through like Yosemite, I would probably be using it a lot.
Huh, that's interesting. Yeah. And for those who don't know, Christina you're kind of an iPhoneographist. Is that how you say it?
iPhoneographer?
Yeah. For travel, you shoot with a film DSLR, or film DSLR, a film camera, and your iPhone.
Yep.
Greg mentioned that he bought this lens a while ago, and he said he loves it. It's very sharp. Just wanted to pass that on. Second opinion from the chat room. Thank you, Greg.
So are we still on gear on the table,
Yes.
or are we moving on? Okay.
We are. These came in, and I meant to send out a tweet or two that says I got a product in that might revolutionize the way I record my videos, because we haven't done wireless audio yet. I feel like the budget is just not quite there, but these are very affordable. They were sent to me by Asden and just started limited testing. If you watch the giveaway video, that's the first video we use these in so you can hear. Sounds pretty good. We had some problems recording other videos yesterday that you haven't seen yet where it would drop out from time to time. I'm not convinced it was these guys' fault, but it also does make me say, hey, but they're so nice and small, use USB power. I'll be talking more about them. They come with everything you need, and I think they're under $200. Might be a little bit more. As then, we'll put that link in the product notes as well. And that's it for gear on the table right now, except my glass of water.
Okay. So now we are going to move on to the news section. Before we get to that, though, I want to remind you to give us a thumbs up if you're enjoying what you're watching right now. Helps us tell other people that this show is awesome and that they should watch it. And also, if you would like to support what we do, help us bring you more tutorials like the awesome speedlight video that we released a couple weeks ago and the awesome portrait lighting video that we released this past week. Was it yesterday? I think it was yesterday. We're going to be making more videos like that. So if you want to help us,
we've already got more videos made, just some editing to do, and they'll get out, which is very exciting.
Yeah. So to support us, visit photorec.tv/about. And if you would like to keep up with us on social media, our links to all of our social media channels are on the screen right now. I am Christina Bernellis on Instagram, Christina Burr NLS on Twitter. I had to shorten it because they told me to shorten it. Oh. And ChristinaBernellis.com if you'd like to see some of my work.
Mm-hmm. That's right. And I'm Photorec Toby just about everywhere. Just a reminder that this is a big shopping month for many of you, and using my Amazon and B and H links doesn't cost you anything extra, and is an awesome way to support the work we do. So you can take those links from photorec.tv/about, or in the show notes, you can bookmark the Amazon link and the B and H link and do all of your shopping through the holiday season. And I really thank you. It makes a huge difference for us in what we can do here.
Yep. All right, on to our news section.
That's the old-timey news.
So we want to remind you...
Why haven't we introduced those kind of sound effects yet?
Because we have enough trouble trying to set up the gosh darn A7R2
gosh darn.
to work properly. Anyway, so we talked about this last episode, but this isn't really photo-related. It's just kind of awesome. Well, first I want to tell people about Marlboro and the scholarship.
I think the Insight thing is over.
Oh, the silent auction?
I think the silent auction is over. There are two things we just want to mention that are good. The college I used to work for is running a scholarship program called Renaissance Students. One completely free ride per student per state. It's an awesome opportunity. It's an amazing little college with an awesome photography faculty. John Willis, really nice guy, does really great work. But it's not a photography college. It's very much a liberal arts college, but you can get photography instruction there as well. So if you know somebody who, especially students who haven't done well in high school, you think, that's weird, you're saying that when you're talking about scholarship. Marlboro really is a unique place that students who didn't do well in your kind of traditional classrooms, didn't like that whole teacher at the front of the room, blabbing. I don't blame them. I didn't love that either. You might say, hey, there's this cool college you should check out, and there's an opportunity to get a scholarship. So that's marlborocollege.com. I'm sure they have stuff there somewhere. No, marlborocollege.edu. Something there.
Yep.
Okay. Whew.
So there was an interesting video/article on F-stoppers this past week. The title of it is "Most People Cannot Tell the Difference Between Nikon, Sony, Canon, high-res files. And I think it's worth talking about because it's kind of what we preach as photographers, to not get so hung up on the gear, because when you put things side by side, the difference is so minute that the time you're spending worrying about which camera is the best, which lens is the best, is time that could be better spent actually creating images, or going on a trip and creating images, or like just
walking
creating
out your
images.
front door, yes, and creating images, or taking pictures of your sleeping cat.
Yeah.
Yes, yes, yes. The study was, basically F-Stoppers did a review side-by-side of the 5D SR from Canon, the Sony A7R Mark II, and the Nikon D810, basically the class leaders in resolution in each of those respective manufacturers, categories, whatever. I think a lot of people were unhappy. They felt it was unfair, so they redid the test and they said, here are the pictures. You guys pick which one you think is best. And the results are pretty evenly split among them, with the one surprising fact being, well, it's not really surprising. Again, it goes in with what we know. Nikon D810 was the one picked as looking the best in these examples.
Which is the smallest sensor size, or not the smallest sensor size, the smallest megapixel count.
36 megapixel. Oh no, 36 megapixels. So, yeah, what Christina said. It's, and my first thought when I looked at it was like, oh, these are small, but you can click on them and you can gigantic, all made with the same lens. So these guys did a good job, and I think it illustrates nicely that you should not sit behind the computer agonizing over your megapixels and your perceptual megapixels and what gear, and you should get it and get out the door. And F-Stoppers also says this basically, and says, what they think is that the future of high-resolution cameras is not going to be based so much on image quality as it will be based on new and innovative features.
Right.
So, and that's, that's one of the things that's really appealing to me about the Sony, is that it's got great megapixel and really great low ISO and that 4K. So those were the things that drew me to that camera.
And the things that I hate about it are it's...
Well, we haven't had a show.
It's horrible battery life. And yeah, how are you going to say we haven't had a show when we haven't talked about the Sony? So I should probably just stop talking about it.
No. We haven't had a show since you had a little love affair with some of the pictures you saw. Now, Christina's been pretty down on this. We're not going to rehash this argument over again. But we will say that at the last time we all chatted, all of us together, Christina had only edited maybe the first wedding that I used to shoot the Sony.
The first couple of weddings, I would say. It was the first couple.
For simplicity's sake, let's just say the first one. And in that one, I had left silent shutter on most of the time. That I know now, I knew shortly afterwards, but Christina hadn't edited those pictures yet, that does significantly impact the image quality. It's a lower bitrate file with less dynamic range. In a more recent wedding that you edited that I shot, and also used Sony lenses, 55, f1.8, you were really happy with the results. Yeah, okay, that's all.
It was just really, really beautiful image quality, and the dynamic range that I was able to see out of those images was pretty incredible. Like the amount of detail that you can get out of the shadows without grain, and similar to the highlights. It's just, yeah, it was really impressive. That said, image quality is top notch. I'm not denying that. It's incredible. It's better than Canon. I still would not use it for weddings for many of the reasons that we're not going to talk about now. If you are really curious, you should go watch the video that Toby published a few weeks ago, 5 reasons why wedding photographers might not want to shoot with the Sony. So, okay, next on the schedule is...
Don't skip, you skipped over. 6 photographers, this is what we teased in the beginning, were asked to shoot one person, a portrait of one person with a twist. This is from Petapixel. So this story is interesting. We have some things to say about it because I think the story in itself has kind of a slant. The idea was they've got this dude. They bring in 6 different photographers individually, and they say, here's the story. He is a recovering alcoholic. He is a self-made millionaire. They tell each of the photographers a different story, and then the photographers go and they take their pictures, and then they hang them all up in a room together, and they see the very different pictures they got of this man.
Right.
Now, I think this is the idea here is to illustrate that
it's not the camera, it's the photographer that that has the unique vision to create a different image than everybody else.
Right. And that unique vision, I don't know if, like I say, this may come with a bias of like, this is what an ex-con looks like, or this is what a self-made millionaire might look like. And so then they're going to kind of style their portrait in that way.
Right. But at the same time, I feel like the idea was really good. The execution, not so much. I don't think that you're putting way too many variables, introducing way too many variables into this video where like you don't really see it as this photographer is going to create a different image than this other photographer, knowing that the circumstances and the background of the person is the same. Everything is the same, but the photographer, you're introducing a whole backstory. So yes, of course, they're going to try to frame this person in a different light, so to speak. But yeah, I wish that they hadn't added the storyline. I wish that they had been a storyline across the board for everybody, because I think that would really truly have shown how these people would have approached this portrait, you know, with their own bias about what this person's character.
Yeah. The other thing that I don't like is that, and I don't mean to pick it apart, but here's my opinion. We see one photo from each photographer at the end. I am sure you took a bunch of pictures the other day for that startup in town. You took in a bunch of different styles.
Right.
And I am sure
I would pick one, I would pick one to be like my hero shot or whatever, you know?
Okay.
Like I could pick a favorite.
Well, that's my question. I don't know. And I didn't see in this article if it said for sure. Who picked that one picture that represented the work? Did the photographer pick it, or did the people who set this whole thing up pick it? In my head, I was thinking that the people who set it all up were like, oh, that's the one that shows this photographer really kind of wanted to show them look like an ex-con or something, kind of like a gotcha. So, but maybe the photographer picked it, and then that changes my opinion a little bit. It's interesting, and it comes back to, again, the person behind the camera, not so much the gear.
Right.
Did I make it about that? Okay.
Anyway, what do you guys think? Tell us in the chat. Tell us in the comments. We want to know what you think about this.
We do.
Yeah.
And that reminds me, if you have if you want to share something with the world through this stuff that we're doing right now, the chat goes away at the end of the video, so you need to take the time to leave a comment. We do read them, as I evidenced by my making sure I mentioned that you can do a AF/MF switch on the Sony cameras without having it on the lens. And also people commented really nice about the copyright stuff from 2 weeks ago discussion that we're going to touch on briefly and show you where you can get some more resources about that in just a few moments.
Yeah. All right. Breakthrough Photography claims that the X3 CPL is the world's sharpest circular polarizer. So, new circular polarizer, it is claimed to be extremely accurate in terms of color and incredibly, incredibly sharp. Thoughts?
Yeah, I think the headline says it all. This is one of those things, well, one, I love circular polarizers. I think they are the one filter that you probably need. They're great at saturating your colors a little bit more, removing reflections. For many, many years, I used it as the poor man's ND filter just to cut out a little bit light when I was trying to do blurry waterfall pictures. And it's one of those things like, okay, how much sharper is it? Does it really matter? When, again, you go back to that f-stoppers, a 36 megapixel versus a 42 megapixel using a Tamron lens. They look basically the same versus a 50.2 megapixel or whatever the Canon is. So, yeah, but the prices look pretty decent. Options range from about 90 to 160, which is where high quality circular polarizers are. I expected when I heard the headline for things to be like $200 or $300, and then I'm kind of like, well, that's where the Lee filter stuff is, which is very good quality, and it has some additional benefits. But, I don't know.
Yeah.
Okay. So if you want a really sharp circular polarizer filter, they're on Kickstarter right now.
Yeah. Some leaked photos of the APS-C Tokina 14-20 f2 lens. So if you were looking for a wide angle for your crop sensor camera, this might be a good choice for you. It's not that wide, though, for crop sensor. It's not that wide.
Right.
What's the equivalent? It's a
1.6, so times 14 times 1.6, whatever that is. But right, so it's only 4 millimeters wider than your 18, your kit lens. I talk about all of this in my wide angles for kit lenses, or wide angles for crop sensors. I talk about this some. It looks nice. I bet it's going to be a good value. Tokina lenses are often a good value, but as Christina says, it's not that wide. It does offer f2. It's got that clutch mechanism. Are you showing my screen for a second?
No.
It's that clutch mechanism from AF to MF. So, you know, I'm such a hypocrite because I'm going back and forth. I'm complaining about the Sony not having an AF to MF switch on it. The Tokino does have an AF to MF switch, but it's the kind where that whole focus ring gets pulled down. I don't really like that kind. I also have heard that that kind breaks more frequently than having a little switch, but I don't know how much true that is. So, you know, again, I think it's going to be a good value. Tokina lenses in general are good.
Yep.
So, we're moving on. Moving into the section of quick bits. Little news stories, even though some of the stuff we already talked about was quick. I wanted to talk about product camera in... Oh, okay. So, there's a new app. Hey, first off, I like this. It's Android only right now. It'll come later this year to iOS. You're so jealous.
It must be a terrible app. Terrible, terrible app. Ugh, ugh.
It's neat. Here, let me click on it so people can see what...
Eye roll.
You don't need to say eye roll if it's a visual video. Okay.
If it's a visual video.
Basically, it cuts objects that you're trying to sell out of their background. So, are we on my screen? Sorry.
No.
Dropping my phone. I've installed it on the Nexus here. And here's an example of some shoes on a table and a picture. And then a shirt. You can see in the background that shirt's hanging on a green thing. And a toy that's sitting with some other stuff poking in that it didn't get. So, let's try it out with Liam right now. We did a quick try before. Let me try. I'm going to be partly off the screen. Liam,
Can people see this?
We're about to sell you. Go back to Cam. Yeah, so I'm going to take a
He's
picture.
really expensive.
How much would Liam cost? Last week we asked how many megapixels he would be. Somebody said 28 meow pixels. Oh my gosh.
Oh, that was terrible.
Look what it just did. Wait, that's the bad. Look what it just did. Can you see that? Yeah, you can see that.
Kind of.
It's just white.
You should show the other one.
Here's the one we did earlier as practice. Not terrible. You can see that it also got part of this little lens cloth sitting here and something else is sticking in. Let's do something a little bit more fun like the camera sitting here. Let's see if I wanted to sell the Sony a7S II that's not mine.
You're off the screen, but
well,
people get the idea, I guess.
Hey, that wasn't bad. So that was the Sony sitting over there on the...
I'm sure you can change the settings so that the...
Oh, and you can edit it after the fact, too.
The drop...
So basically, it does the Photoshop cutout for you. I don't know. Might be kind of fun. Try Christina now.
Let's not try me. I'm also really expensive.
That's the best portrait I've ever taken of you.
Oh, God.
Oh, wait. It gave up. So, I don't know. I think I'm going to find some entertainment in this free app for sure. Whether it'll actually be useful, that's a different story.
Okay.
All right. I don't know why we talked about it. I think mostly because I wanted to take a picture of Liam on the table. Liam, thank you so much for being here and cooperating.
Okay. Drone maker DJI and Hasselblad are partnering up. We don't really know the details of it, but we might expect to see some products.
Well, I mean, we know the details are in the article you didn't read.
I did read it.
Oh.
Yeah.
The detail is it is a strategic minority stake that's also in the title. It's basically some stock sharing there, which means they should be able to work very closely together in sharing some of their technology.
That's what I was going to say.
Okay.
Before you rudely cut me off.
Well, they shouldn't have said we didn't know the details then.
Well, we don't know any specific details.
Yeah.
All right.
So we should have little medium formats flying around in the drone soon.
Okay.
Hasselblads.
So Sony is rumored to have a revolutionary model coming out soon. Really, Sony? You gonna get my hopes up again just to crush me again?
Yeah, so it's
we shouldn't talk about this too much.
We know very, very little. This is where you meant to say we don't know the details yet. We know very little details except for the Sony rumors guy said this is a good source that has been very reliable in the past. They cannot say much. It is top secret, but it's not supposed to be a new model or a next model of anything currently. It is supposed to be something significantly different. We'll see. We'll see. And then Envisage has promised to bring some quantum film smartphone sensor to market. Here's what I want you to take away from this article. There's a new sensor that we might find in smartphones in another couple of years that will improve the dynamic range and the quality of our pictures. This is one of those things that's been talked about a long time ago, but not out yet. And this is kind of cool. This is a thing called slopes. You stick your GoPro in, and then it allows you to have all these different angles you set it at. So you can see. The one thing that I feel like is missing from here is why couldn't they put a little teeny tripod hole on here so that you could also have a tripod mount for your GoPro. That would push this over the edge, and I would be like, that's useful. But right now, as it is, it's all kind of ground-based, or I guess he's got it stuck on the shelf here on the left. So I don't know. Interesting. I like it, but I want a little tripod hole.
All right, we have a few more news articles that we would love for you to check out. They are listed in the show notes. We are now going to move on to photos from space.
Photos from space. I didn't get to show my straw picture. Before we get to photos from space, though, I mentioned we talked 2 weeks ago about a couple different scary, horrible copyright issues. And we talked about somebody recommended submitting their files to the U.S. Copyright Office. The best thing I can point you to is This Week in Photos, episode 16, TWIP Talks. They talk with a photographer who's an expert in copyright. That'll be linked in the show notes. Lots of good information in there about how to do all of this and what you should do with your pictures. And then there's actually a plugin, an image rights plugin that will allow you to submit your photos to the Copyright Office via the plugin as you're exporting them. That's the good news. The bad news, it is incredibly expensive to register your works with the Copyright Office.
Wow.
There is a fee of a couple $100 per work. Unless I misread something, that looks crummy. And there is the free site, pixie.com. Oh, I'm not logged in on this machine, am I? You give it your different information. Yeah, I can't show you. It's pixsy.com. They will go out and find people that might be using your picture and then say, hey, we'll send them a copyright notice. You'll get some money. We take half of that, or we take a cut of that. It doesn't cost you anything. So far, it hasn't found anything for mine except false matches, and it's kind of just annoying. So, now let's get into photos from space. Torrid meteor shower. I was out the other night capturing some stars, and I saw a bunch of meteors. It was pretty nice. I saw 5 or 6 in the 2 hours that I was out there. I was pretty happy with that. One was a good one. I've got an article on capturing the Perseids, which is the same idea. You just have to figure out for the Taurids where they're coming from. I think the constellation Taurus. And point your camera in that way. Okay?
Are we done?
Yeah, we're done. I'm sorry, I got all this good information I want to share with you all.
Okay.
But we got double Instagram whammy time.
Yeah, but now we only have 3 minutes to do it, and it's all your fault. So.
Who's in charge of the timer?
Me.
Okay.
I'm in charge of the timer.
Can you give us a little more time?
Nope.
Oh my gosh.
You've already taken too much time. All right, guys, so we're going to announce our Instagram winners for this week and for last week. So if you remember, last week we had the challenge was spooky, and you guys submitted some pretty spooky pictures. Like, I had trouble looking at some of them because
they were spooky.
They were pretty spooky.
Well, yeah, that's the thing.
And then there's macro. Mm-hmm. So let's just get right into it.
Okay, well, you have to stall for a minute more because while you're doing that, I was reading the chat room and I wasn't opening the pictures. So let's go with, let's just go with my spooky winner.
Wow, you have like 7 honorable mentions.
Wow, I really liked a lot of them.
You're such a people pleaser.
I also would like to, sorry, as we open Instagram pictures right now, I'd love to do some critiquing of these from time to time as well.
Well, if you pick like 7 of them, there's not going to be time to critique any of them. Now we're going to have to like go really fast through them.
My winner of the PRTV Spooky Challenge is Tony Lawrence's Black Cat. You know, I don't know how well it comes through on YouTube, but obviously you see the eyes, but there's just a little hint of more there as well. Just perfect exposure with this black cat and his golden eyes there. Really nice job, Tony. Excellent. A runner-up, Angela's creepy clown. Why clowns always gotta go make themselves so creepy?
That was super creepy.
But there were a lot of people that had the kind of the zombie thing. Man, the zombie stuff is out of control. I have a personal bias. I don't find that creepy. I just find it gross. But the tone in the sky here, the overall tone of the image, the pose and the angle, I think all really work really nicely here, Angela. Great job. Honorable mention for Spooky. Pixel Caper. I don't know how much Photoshop is involved here. And I don't know if I would necessarily call it spooky, but I loved it. It's a great shot. Thank you so much. And this one, I thought, if I was walking down a trail and I looked in front of me and saw a dude standing in the fog, mist, in that pose, I'd be like...
pretty spooked.
Yeah, I'd be spooked. So I picked it. Corey's got a brain scan, which I think is spooky on many levels. Not only does it look kind of creepy, which also can be spooky, but this is your brain and almost stuff going on in their brain. So kind of crazy. And then I just wanted to shout out, this is a video. We hardly ever get videos because we mostly are photography, but it's slow motion and there's audio too in slow motion, so it's kind of spooky. So there we go. Now back to us and stall for a minute as I open up your spookies.
Well, how shall I stall?
Well, tell us about things that were spooky to you as a child.
I don't know if I want to go into that.
Did you find clowns spooky as a child?
No, I didn't.
Okay.
I never found clowns spooky as a child. I was...
The dark?
I did, yeah, I was scared of the dark. Very scared of the dark.
Okay.
Okay.
Good stalling.
That was great. So this is my winner, I think, right?
Yes.
Yes, okay. And it is by Cordelli97. And I love the composition and I love the treatment. I love that even though it's black and white and it's super busy, there's still a very clear subject and everything is sort of framed around it. And it's pretty spooky, so I really liked it.
One of your runners up.
The eye's missing. Man, that's scary.
Oh.
That's really scary. And yeah, so that's why I picked that one. Because it was like
that
double take.
Yeah.
Really creepy. Oh, and I also picked that one.
Oh, so. Nice. Very nice. All right, now we need to come back to us and we need to talk about what are the smallest things that are spooky. No. We got to go with our macros. I'll open all of them up this time. So we stall for a little longer.
Okay.
And then
well, let me look at the chat real quick. I'm going to look at the chat. We'll find good reasons to stall.
I'll see one side.
Trelina loves the fire hair.
The fire hair.
Yeah.
That was a good one.
Somebody called you Dr. Toby.
Why?
I don't know.
Because I'm a genius doctor?
I doubt that. It's funny just jumping on the chat when there's like...
No context?
Yeah. Okay, somebody said, sounds like patent trolls.
Oh, I know what I clicked wrong. Okay. I clicked the wrong thing, so we're going to...
Okay. In the future, we should have these open.
We should, I know. They're going to be in right order. Or almost there.
Thanks for waiting, guys.
Yep. Okay. And again, my winner is Roger's screw. There are a lot of fantastic macro shots, but he did this with stacking, so you got a great depth of field. There's something about the detail and the crispness on the solid black here that I really like, and it stood out for me. Very nice job, Roger. Thank you. Runner-up, we've got Levacue's insect. A lot of you had great insects. This one just hit the right points for me. Even though we have a little bit of depth of field problems, not all of the insect is in focus, but the colors, the pose, the pollen, really nice job. Thank you. And then Limes Are Sweet is another honorable mention here.
Ooh, that's very macro-y.
I know, I love the kind of juxtaposition of the threadiness with the hard metal. Really nice job. And one more honorable mention for me, Tony. Another fantastic shot. I have wanted to do a shot like this for a long time. It is that reflection of a flower in the dewdrop. Beautiful, nice tones, nice colors. It's a really rich photo. And then I believe this is your winner, Christina?
Yes. I love mushrooms. Well,
so if you want to win in the future,
I really love the soft this picture has a very chiaroscuro effect to me. The transition from light to dark is very, very gradual, and the tones are all it feels very monochromatic to me. And it's just very beautiful. So I really like this one. I think I may try, if I give any critique, I might try to Photoshop that little mushroom on the top left corner because my eye keeps going to it, but otherwise, or just crop that out. But otherwise, it's just a really great picture. So that was my winner for this week.
Nice. And runner-up?
I love the colors in that
mention.
one too. Yeah, and it's, I don't know, it's just, I guess this is some kind of lichen or something.
Yeah.
And it's just really cool looking. You never really get to see that stuff up close.
So you're 2 for 2 with the fungi.
Yep.
Or a lichen is a mix of fungi and something else.
Okay.
Algae, I think.
And
right?
this is just really awesomely, beautifully abstract. Like I also love the tones in this one, these greens and blues, and it's all very, I don't know, melancholic, I want to say, but and I love all the, like the bokeh, the circles in the bokeh. Gosh, those are beautiful. Yeah, and it's just like nicely punctuated by that really nice blade of grass with a little teardrop.
Nicely done. Nicely done. Okay. Oh, look. New one. Come back to us. So everybody doesn't need to know that a new updated Java is available.
So thank you guys for submitting. We really enjoyed looking through these pictures. They are just getting better and better and better and better. So this week's challenge is going to be classic portraits. So if you haven't already watched the Foundations portrait lighting video that we released yesterday, the link is going to be down below. Go watch it. And we want you to take a portrait using one of the different lighting techniques that we taught you in that video. So it can be loop lighting or Rembrandt lighting or butterfly lighting or side lighting. And I should also mention that you don't need an umbrella to do this. You don't need a modifier or speed light or anything. You can do this in natural light with window light, you know, out in wherever there is directional light, you can move your subject. And actually that is the subject of our next video, is we're going to show you how to do that. I mean, use window light to create portraits. I've said too much. So
you said too much?
yes, I've revealed too much about the next video. So anyway, take a portrait using
I didn't know it was a secret.
The different types of portrait lighting and hashtag it PRTV_classic portrait. No S at the end, just classic portrait. He liked that spot.
I know, but you know, he's here for our entertainment. So
yeah, but the computer's warm. This is like a...
Like it's cold in here. He was using the lens cloth as a little pillow.
Aww.
It's kind of cute.
Okay.
He's so cute.
Now we have 3 minutes for our discussion. So.
Okay. So, moving on to our discussion. A lot of people passed us this link.
Yes. So actually, maybe we should leave that discussion for the after show because we have some very important things to tell you about printing your images and calibrating your monitor. So actually, this is the perfect amount of time to talk about that. So let's do that. So we have partnered up with Autorama Pix. They have sponsored shows in the past and have provided you guys with some really nice discount codes to get really nice prints. And this week we have a code for you. What is the code?
Oh, I thought you were going to put it on the screen, official like.
I could put it on the screen, but we didn't.
I believe it is I have to look. I passed it to you earlier.
It'll be down below in the comments. Yes. But I would like to say it for the people who listen to the show as well.
It is PX Toby 810.
PX Toby 810. And I will just have the discount code on the screen. But
That provides you with 99-cent 8x10s. Nice large prints. Now, of course, you can go get a nice print for that. But here's what we want you to do. We want you to pick a couple of your recent favorite pictures that you like. Or just pictures. And just send them off for printing at Adorama Pix using this code. Not only do you save, you also help support our work here. But what we're going to do next week is we're going to come back and say, okay, you've got these prints in hand. Now, how do we figure out this one might be a little dark or a little too bright versus your monitor, or maybe the green is a little bit too much? Christina's going to sit here with us and tell you the adjustments you can make to your monitor free without buying anything extra that are going to help you get your print and your monitor more closely aligned. Now, there is, of course, the print monitor calibrators that Roy did a wonderful write-up about that we'll also make sure is in the show notes. So if you want that detailed automatic do-it, that's an option. But in this case, you get a couple of really cheap, nice-sized prints that you can also use to help kind of calibrate. I want to use the word judge too, make judgments about where you should be editing your photos, brightness value, exposure value, to get better prints.
That's right. So your homework, just to reiterate, your homework for next week is going to be to get at least three to five 8x10 images from Adorama Pix and have them with you for when we do our monitor calibration tutorial.
Right.
What?
I feel like a lot of people, they, don't know where to start with this, and they really kind of dread the idea, and they're nervous about it, and it also keeps them from printing some too. Here you go, 99 cents, not even a full $1. I think you do have to pay shipping, so it adds a little bit more in there, but use this code.
But it's still a great deal.
Now, should they do a couple of different sessions, maybe like a picture of the family at the beach, or?
Yeah, so a good some pictures that you could have printed are one nice close-up portrait in fairly good light. So pick your favorite portrait that you've ever taken and have that printed. Pick a family portrait, so a couple different lighting conditions. So maybe if you have one that's like next to a window, or maybe you have one that's outdoors, a black and white portrait. So just pick 3 to 5 of your favorite images, include at least 1 or 2 different portraits, and maybe 1 black and white image, and then have them with you, and we're going to show you how to create a print profile in Lightroom so that any other time that you're going to send prints to Adorama Pix, you can have a better idea of what they're going to look like when printed on paper. So the code is on the screen right now. It's PXToby810. So go to AdoramaPix.com and go ahead and order your prints and have them for next week.
Vincent says you can upload 750 photos for a single filing fee. Oh, okay. So that's very different from what it said in that.
We're going back to that.
Well, yeah, because people in the chat room have intelligent things to add to our discussion when we don't know necessarily. So definitely don't listen to what I said about super expensive. Maybe that plugin adds in some fees of their own to keep it all working so easily, but it sounds a little bit more affordable.
Yeah.
So.
All right, everyone, we're going to move to the live Q&A, not the news, the live Q&A portion of the show. So it looks like there are some questions posted already, but if you have any more, we're going to go for about another 12 minutes or so, answering as many questions as we can.
And we'll take a quick break in there to go back to, I want this to be in the main part of the show of why I dislike Best Buy. Because earlier this week I tweeted out a deal for them and said...
Why don't you talk about it now?
Well, because you need to send me that picture, and you haven't sent me the picture yet.
I see.
Okay. So, we'll come back to that in just a minute, teasing it a little bit more. It's not that exciting, but it's exciting enough that I want to share it with you. Jeffrey wants to know if I'm going to do a review of the Sigma Quattro. I had mentioned a friend of mine bought one. He's actually a friend of a friend. He doesn't live nearby. I don't think so. The demand and interest in that camera is so incredibly low that you're the first person that's ever asked me my opinion about it. I took a look at it when we were at Photo Expo Plus. there's good quality there until you get into low light, and low light is just so, from what I've heard and read in reviews and seen, is so poor that it's just not worth it. Who's photographing only in gorgeous light all of the time? That's what that camera's for. So probably not. But you never know, Jeffrey. You never know. What medium gives the best results for printing? Paper, canvas, metal, glass? Wow. Well, there's not a single answer to that. I think in general, a really high quality paper is going to give you the best look.
So I think, maybe this is a topic for another more lengthy discussion, but it varies on a couple of different levels. First, it's preference. So do you like your images to appear kind of glossy? Do you like them to be more matte? What sort of feel do you like when you touch the images? This sort of thing matters. Another thing that you need to take into consideration is archiving. Is this image going to turn yellow in 2 years? Is it going to turn yellow in 5 years? Is this archival paper? So those are more important questions than what paper is or what type of material is better. I think if you're going for kind of flashy stuff, something like a metal, or printing on something that's has glass over it, then that would be a good choice. I personally think that while metal prints might look kind of cool, I don't know that that's a style that's gonna, be very timeless. They're also really glossy.
They're very glossy.
So
some pictures look great that way.
Yeah, but
it's not for everything.
But the glare sometimes can be too much.
Yeah, so you think about where you're going to display this picture. Are you going to display it with big windows behind you? How far away are people going to be standing when they look at this picture? These are all factors.
Right. So if you're printing on canvas, one of the arguments about printing on canvas is not just the quality of it, or the size that you can print it as. But it's also, it is somewhat timeless, so you don't have a frame for it. So if you move your styles change as far as like your home decor, it stays pretty much, it is fairly timeless. So those are hopefully that's helpful. Those are some things that you might want to consider. For the prints that I sell to my own clients, when they buy small prints like 5x7s, 4x6s, 8x10s, I have them choose luster paper because luster paper has sort of the same properties that matte and glossy. It's kind of like a mix between matte and glossy.
The best of both worlds?
Yeah, so it's got like the contrast and the saturation of glossy paper. Matte paper tends to be a little bit more flat, but it's not so glossy so that the texture is a teeny bit like pebbled or sparkly. Or lustrous, and so it's less prone to smudges. So luster is my personal preference for just like your everyday thing. If somebody was printing a larger portrait, then there are different options, different directions that might lead them in.
Cool. Okay. What flash are you using? David wants to know what flash I'm using with a Sony at weddings. None. I was using no flash when I was shooting weddings with the Sony. I'm in a nice position to be able to have two cameras on me. One would be the Canon, the other would be the Sony. The Sony I was shooting those more kind of natural looking low light shots at the reception, and then we don't use a flash tons at wedding unless we have to. It usually gets used at receptions because you have to. But for everything else, we have a lot of outdoor weddings that we shoot, and so we don't need flash stuff. So the Sony was fine in that case. I just got the shipping notice or the delivery notice tomorrow. Photix makes a nice professional level flash for the Sony, so I will be using that, talking about that more as well. Yeah, they have a whole flash system. So I think that's where I'm going to go for the Sony if I want to start using flashes more seriously with that.
And I would also like to say that that's kind of been, also my approach at weddings. I am much more likely these days, or this past season, I've been more likely to shoot with the available light if it's not too dark than use a flash, because I find that a flash, while it may really help with the exposure of a photo, it sort of kills the ambience completely. The ambiance completely, and it makes the image look like something entirely different, a place that was entirely different than what we actually were. And I want my clients to sort of be able to envision themselves where they were and back at their party and stuff. Yeah. So
we should have a longer, this is another thing we'd love to have a longer discussion about. We have some strong opinions about this. Sometimes people say they're a natural light photographer because they're scared of using flashes or they don't want to. Clearly, you know what you're doing with a flash. But it does change the look even when used correctly. And yeah, you don't care.
It's really difficult to emulate true natural light. It's extremely difficult. And when you're just walking around and there's a lot of stuff going on and you have very little control of the precision of your light, when you're shooting with a strobe or with a speed light, it's really challenging to get a very natural looking image. So I've experimented with some techniques that maybe we should talk about as well. Just mostly having my flash off camera, but it gets a little bit tricky when people start to get in the way of the flash. And so, but anyway, let's move on to the next question.
EJ Bernal wants to know what's better for portraiture, flash or strobes? Sorry, flash/strobes, basically the same thing, or continuous lighting.
There's really nothing better if you're just learning, and you can get a strobe that has a modeling light, so you can see where the light is going to be, or where the shadows and the light is going to be on your subject's face, then that's going to cut down on the time that takes you to set up.
Can I break it down? So a strobe is a light that sends out a big bright burst like a flash. A modeling light on that is a constant light that is shining, usually LED or incandescent, that, as Christina said,
constant. It's a constant light source. There's also constant light source kits, which I think are primarily used for videography, but you can certainly, like Westcott has the TD6, TD5. I don't remember the name of this.
The ones worth buying are really expensive for the continuous light still, because it has to be very bright, it has to be very good, clean light.
The color, it's important that the color is accurate. So I think that the most versatile, the most practical, the most budget-friendly option if you're trying to get into portraiture is to get yourself an umbrella and to get yourself a speed light that you can get off camera. So whether that be the Yongnuo if you're on a budget, or Canon or Nikon equivalent, that is your choice. And
we'll be talking about this more.
Yeah, but that is going to be your best bet, your most budget-friendly option.
And I'll just share a quick story. Once I walked around a wedding shortly after I got a small LED light, and I was like, "Ooh, this would be cooler than using a flash." And I thought it would be less intrusive. I don't know why I thought that. But you have this giant bright light on top of your camera shining constantly in people's faces, and everybody was like this. And a flash, you do not get that reaction because they don't get any brightness until the second the picture takes, and sometimes you get blinks. But so in that case, a flash is much better, I've found. If you're doing video, that's a different story, but you didn't ask about that. So
going back to EJ's question, so that's what that would be your most versatile choice. But if you can afford it to get like an Alien Bee or something that has a continuous light source while you're learning, where you're still getting used to it, it is going to allow you to see as you move the light where the light's going to fall on your subject. So one's not better than the other. Once you do it enough, you'll pretty much know be able to get really close to achieve the pattern of lighting that you want. So, yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Some good portrait lenses that we recommend.
The 85 any aperture, 85 millimeter lens.
Do you recommend that for crop sensor people too? 85?
Yes and no. I don't know.
It's complicated.
I mean, it's honestly, if you have an 85 millimeter lens on a crop sensor and you're taking a portrait outside, you can back up enough. The important thing about having the 85 is that it's going to compress the background enough and your image enough that you're not going to get any distortion on the person's face. You're going to be able to get a really nice, simple portrait. And if you get an 85, it's most likely going to have a pretty wide aperture in case you need to stop down a little bit, get a little bit of a shallower depth of field. So I would say yes across the board, the 85. If you can't do the 85, I would do the 50, 51.8. 51.8 I think is a little bit too wide. Like, you have to be really careful on full frame cameras because it can cause a little bit of distortion, just a little bit, and it's harder to compress your background and get a shallow depth of field behind your subject. So again,
but on crop with that narrower field of view, I think it's lovely, and it's a great
on crop. Yeah, absolutely.
If you got a little bit more money, by a little bit I mean a medium little bit, the Sigma 50 f1.4. Because the colors and contrast are a significantly noticeable notch up from the 51.8 STM. But that 51.8 STM, that's a fine lens. The pictures you saw in the example of the most recent where I'm the model were taken with the 51.8 STM. It's fine.
Yeah.
So, and you can go longer. You can go up to the 135. You can do the 70 to 200. But, you know, if you just want to know like one or two, 50 and 85.
Yeah, for sure.
Patrick wants to know if we're going on the McKay Scotland trip next year. Yes. We're still working on the details of that.
But I think so.
Oh, you think so?
I think so.
I think we're still working on the details.
I think we're still working on the details.
Deepak wants to know umbrella or...
Hello, everyone. Sorry about that. Our computer crashed. So anyway, so I was just talking about the difference between a softbox and an umbrella. And softbox has a narrower beam of light, so you can... The qualities of the shadows are going to be slightly more fine-tuned than the umbrella. But umbrellas are more affordable and they're a lot more versatile. They pack down a lot smaller. So if you don't have either, I would just get an umbrella and start with that.
And save up for a softbox.
That's right.
Yep. And we'll get out some videos about recommended gear soon. A lot of jokes about battery. The Sony's fine battery. It was the Mac that crashed. But here's what I want you all to know. The Sony's now running off a wall plug. I bought one of those things off Amazon. However, even though this is not a real battery in there, this is just plugged directly into the wall, the battery percentage indicator slowly drops. It's at 58%. It was at 98% when we started the show. And it slowly drops until you disconnect it, let the camera be off for a second, and plug it back in. And when it goes to 0, I think it actually does turn off. And I saw somebody else say you can run these Sonys off battery pack forever. Yes, but not when you're doing the streaming. When you run the battery pack, I'm pointing at you folks out there. When you run the battery pack, it still doesn't give it enough juice that it can stay happy, and I've had it die on me as well when you're doing this 4K feed or 1080p.
Okay, you have to go on your rant about Best Buy.
Okay, quick rant about Best Buy. Why don't I like Best Buy? I've got a picture that sums it up, and it's not these folks' fault necessarily, but here's a picture for you all. This picture was on the SD card that was in my Sony a7R Mark II. That's right. Remember, if you remember the whole story, Elton, very nicely, a reader and a fellow traveler to Iceland, grabbed an extra Sony a7R II from Best Buy the day they came out, the morning they came out, brought it to Iceland for me. That was the only way I could get it in time. And I've heard time and time again stories from people of buying new things from Best Buy and finding that they weren't so new. In fact, pretty significantly used, but sold as new. And then the whole hassle of the restocking fee and all that stuff they try. And here was this nice example for me. There's a picture. Now, this picture actually was not taken with the Sony. It was taken with some other camera, but somebody here at Best Buy, in this new camera, slid this SD card in, played around with it a little bit. So, I've heard enough of those stories, plus the stories of the people that go into Best Buy and say, I want a camera, and are told ridiculously incorrect things by the people in blue. Now, I know there are some out there that know absolutely what they're doing, but the sad truth is most of them that work in the camera section of the store do not, and are regular and serious dispensers of misinformation.
Your nose is kind of red.
So...
I just made it redder.
Thanks. It does look very red in the thing.
Yeah, don't rub it anymore.
It feels warm. So that's why I don't like Best Buy.
Okay.
And
we get it. And that's the same story with like some smaller camera stores too. You know, they're able to get like one camera in, and they have to like show people that it's like their floor model that they have to show people. So when they sell it, that's all they've got to sell. So,
and you know, to be fair, I've heard one story about Amazon, somebody buying something. I can't remember if it was direct from Amazon or was a third-party seller. So that's where you get in. You got these third-party sellers on Amazon that are sometimes pretty shady, but in general, Amazon and B&H are just so much less of a hassle to deal with.
Yeah. All right, everyone, that is our show for today. Thank you so much for sticking around through the end, and we will see you again next week at 6. What time are we going to see them next week?
6 p.m.
6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time.
Eastern Standard Time.
And, yeah, come back for some more news, to ask more questions. And don't forget to enter the Instagram challenge. This week is Classic Portrait. And follow Toby on Instagram to, if you forgot the hashtag, you will post it in the next couple of days. So yeah.
Yeah, and stick around for the after show. Thanks so much for watching. Thumbs up. Goodbye.
Goodbye.